We're going to pick up.
Gotta watch out for them.
You do. There's so many like skeevy people out there. P. Diddy and R. Kelly. That's a whole other story. R. Kelly. Okay, so we are going to pick up where we left off. I fast forwarded it just a touch because that call that she was having with her son, Rhett, was not very clear. So I just kind of, there might be more of the call, but I fast forwarded it a little bit more. But we're going to pick up right where we left off, where she's testifying. Here we go.
Okay.
Call back later, I guess, just to harass you.
Obviously, you left that message just to harass Dan and Linda, correct?
No, incorrect. That was a call to my children. They were not home. I surmised they were not home, and I reached Linda, the office girl's name on the machine, which shouldn't have been there. And it was a call to my kids. Okay. But I knew if the kids weren't there and I kept calling back, it would harass him that I was calling. I wasn't calling to harass him.
Well, okay, you said there at the end, I'll call back later just to harass you.
Well, I called back to reach the kids, but I knew if I had to call a few times before the kids got there, that it would be bothersome to him. But how would I know when the kids would be there?
Now, that was a call that was intended to harass them, correct?
I never picked up the phone to call Dan Broderick to harass him. I called to reach my children. If I got the machine, I would be mad and harassed, and I would say ugly things to him.
You said this is so much fun. You were having fun leaving those
messages? Obviously, I wasn't having fun, but I knew that he would take the messages and tape them and use them against me because that's what he was doing.
You knew that these messages were harassing, correct? You knew that it was harassing.
I didn't call to harass, but when I got the machine, I was very angry, and I felt harassed first because I was interrupted in reaching my children, and out of frustration, I would say ugly things that ended up harassing him. But I had much more important things to do than to pick up the phone and bother harassing him.
Did you think that when you left that message, stop long enough to return my calls, that was going to make him inclined to want to return your calls?
I wasn't inclined to want to talk to him either. No.
Well, you called and left the message.
I didn't want to have anything to do with Dan Broderick in 1987. I didn't want to talk to him either. He had me between a rock and a hard place, and he knew it, and I had to deal with him on certain things because he made it that way, and then he refused to deal with me. And then I'd get hysterical.
Did you leave that message, Mrs. Broderick, yes or no?
Yes.
And did you say stop long enough to return my messages, yes or no?
Yes.
And did you think that he was going to be inclined to want to call you back when you left that message,
no.
Yes or no?
No.
I have the day off and I would really like to use the boat, my boat. How do I get the keys? Where are the keys? Will you make another set and deliver them over here so that when I want to use the boat I can use it? Thanks, sweetie.
Did that conversation or that message have anything to do with the children or getting in touch with the children, yes or no?
I would have only used the boat with the children, but not particularly on that phone message.
Now, did you also have a Christmas party planned that year?
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to have that party?
This is December '87, right?
Yes.
Yes, I did have the party.
Okay.
And it was.
What kind of party was it?
It was a miniature version of the party we used to have where it was our good friends and their spouses and their children, where it was good for the kids to get together at someone's house for the holidays. And I had a full buffet, and the kids were now older. The kids were in range from 8 to 15, 16 by that time. They weren't little kids anymore. And everyone brought their children.
Were your children able to attend that party?
No, Dan would not let them come on the day that it happened. And he had plenty of notice. It was planned for quite a while.
Yeah, she dropped out for a second. She'll be right back.
Now, around the late fall or early winter of 1987, did you plan a trip to go anywhere?
I think I actually planned that trip during the Christmas holidays. It was a rainy Christmas that year. It was my third Christmas all alone. I was extremely, extremely depressed, in fact, totally suicidal. And I was sitting in the kitchen, and I had a newspaper, and I was just thinking to myself, I mean, everything's in the toilet here. My whole life is in the toilet here. What can I possibly do to cheer myself up or to make something feel better? And I called a 1-800 number and put a Club Med trip to Tahiti on my credit card. And I thought maybe that would help.
Did it help at all?
No, I took the stress and the fear and everything of the legal stuff with me to Tahiti. And I tossed and turned in Tahiti, and I laid on the beach in Tahiti thinking, what are you doing here? You've got to get home and get this settled. It's not going to go away if you go to Tahiti for 10 days.
Now, did you, when you went to Tahiti, was there any pets that you had possession of?
At that stage, the dogs were back and forth. At that stage, the 2 Shih Tzu little furry dogs that we had were at my house.
Okay. Now, I had showed you a picture of a dog and their puppies.
Right, that's one of them.
Aw, so cute.
And that was Defense WW for identification. Was that one of the dogs?
That's Muffin and the puppies, right?
Okay. And whose dogs were they?
They were particularly the
Looks like a
boys'
Shih
dogs.
Tzu.
Danny
Yeah.
owned Topsy, and Brett owned Muffin.
Okay. And during that period of time when you went to Tahiti, did you do anything with the dogs?
Yes, I called up the boys and said I was going away on a vacation. And I also went up to Pasadena for Christmas, so I was going to be away. And I said, you've got to take care of your dogs. So they said, okay, fine. And I drove over there and I dropped the dogs and their food and their little dishes and their leashes and this little foam bed they have that they sleep in.
Okay. Now, at that time in 1987, did you have any custody of the boys at all?
No,
And did you have any visitation with the boys?
no.
When you came back from Tahiti, were you served with any new court papers?
Yes, the day I came back, I was served with papers that I was in contempt for coming within 100 yards and dropping the dogs off.
That was in 1987. What about 1988? That's when she's writing in her diary. There is no better reason in the world for someone to kill than to protect their home, possessions, and family from attack and destruction. You have attacked and destroyed me, my home, my possessions, and my family. You continue to repeatedly attack and steal and destroy. You are the sickest person alive. A law degree does not give you license to kill and destroy, nor does it give you immunity from punishment. No one will mourn you. The next one that was filed was in 1988, February 24th, where there was a hearing and you were found in contempt on 8 counts of contempt. Is that correct?
Okay, I fired Tricia Smith by this point. And so there were no other, yeah. So now I'm representing myself, I think.
And those 8 counts of contempt, they weren't just phone messages. They were phone messages. They were sending vulgar postcards. They were writing threatening letters. There was the incident of forcing Dan off the road, at least the way he described it, coming into the house. There were numerous instances on which you were found in contempt on February 28th, 1988.
That's the
correct?
one I commonly refer to as the dogs, right?
Yes.
That included the dogs, yes. And I had just arrived home from a vacation and he slammed me with papers again.
Now, again, at that hearing, the judge didn't sentence you or punish you in any way. He essentially suspended the sentence. He found you in contempt. He sentenced you to 25 days, which he suspended. He sentenced you to a $1,000 fine per count.
Which is $9,000 or
And-
$10,000.
It's $8,000. There were 8 counts.
Oh, okay, $8,000.
And to attorney's fees, and it was all suspended. At that time, everything was suspended. Nothing was done.
No, that's not correct. The money was a fine imposed that day.
But you were not ordered to pay it. It was suspended.
No, I don't think it was. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think it was. I had to pay it.
Does that refresh your recollection about whether or not this hearing on February 24th, 1988 was the one in which Judge Joseph had indicated he was going to sentence you to jail time, but Mr. Broderick requested that there be no jail?
I don't remember that. I'd have to read this more in context and get everything straight.
Does he not say here to you, I had every intention, after reading the material, of imposing the days which had been suspended, and I'm still not sure that that isn't the right thing to do. But I know less about your family than you do and Mr. Broderick does, and I hear Mr. Broderick saying to me that that's not going to help. It may even make things worse, and I don't want to do that. I do not want to make things worse.
That's what it says there. I'm sure he said it. I don't remember him saying it.
And he did not sentence you to. He suspended everything.
Hey guys, I'm trying to get Lynn to call back in. She's having some issues with the... Oh, there she is. Hold on, let's see if she's on now. Hey, you there?
Yes.
You're there. How does it seem now? Better?
Yes, it seems better now.
Okay. All right. So I'll play. All right. Sounds good.
The last contempt hearing was filed on May 1988, correct?
Yes.
Or was heard. And that had to do with a message that you left that started with, listen, you insane asshole. I'm not accepting rent by cab, which is unsafe, so that I can be your maid.
Why bleep it out now?
I know, right? The beeper's not right.
Was that not, excuse me, just yes or no, was that not the message on which you were held in contempt on May 4th?
No, it wasn't.
There was never another action filed for contempt after the May 4th, 1988, correct?
I think so, yes.
Yes, there was not. Is that
Right.
what you're saying? Right. He tried to get a firm visitation schedule when you were having the problems, going back and forth, when it wasn't working out with the kids, trying to make the arrangements. He wrote you a letter trying to get you to tell him what weekends you wanted, what weeks you wanted, so that it could all be settled without having to use the kids, didn't it?
By May of '88, when they weren't showing up at the mandatory settlement conferences and everything, I didn't even read. If I got this letter, I didn't even read it. And look, there's it is me. But I wasn't agreeing to anything that they presented to me like that. I wanted a full
So
set.
even though they were offering to attempt to resolve the scheduling of visitation,
Right.
and giving you a schedule where you could request which weekends and which weeks you desired to spend with the boys, so that it would be set, you just
In May of
didn't want to have anything to do
'88,
with
that
it.
was much too little, too late, as the saying goes.
So what does she want?
It's 19.
So you weren't willing to agree to any kind of visitation?
No, we were going to trial on this case.
Okay.
It was
She's
way
talking
beyond-
about the fact that they have made numerous attempts for her to have a visitation schedule, and she is just not willing to cooperate.
Right, but what's her rebuttal? Like, what is she saying? What does she want?
Who, Betty?
Yeah, did she say what she wanted?
No, she's just saying,
Okay.
right, no, she's not saying anything. She's trying to avoid the topic altogether.
Okay.
Beyond any kind of agreement. And I didn't have an attorney. I wasn't signing up for anything with them.
Oh, okay. There's the answer.
There it is.
Now, was the case eventually sent to, was the case at some point in time finally given a trial date?
Yes.
Okay.
Wasn't given a trial date. I went there and demanded one.
And did you eventually get a trial date?
Yes.
Okay. Now, when did the trial take place?
End of December 1988, the week between Christmas and New Year's.
Okay.
For Christmas of 1988, that you had the children the first week of Christmas through Christmas morning, correct?
Yes, I think so.
And you indicated that had, being in trial, had interfered with your ability to be with the children. Isn't it true that the divorce trial did not start until after Christmas? The divorce trial did not start until December 27th, and was the week between Christmas and New Year's.
I'm not sure when I had the children before Christmas, but I know that I was totally involved with getting together an entire trial from these boxes and boxes of things that I had, and we didn't have a Christmas to speak of because of that.
Do you remember approximately how long the trial lasted?
From the day after Christmas till whenever it was over. I don't remember if it went beyond New Year's.
During the trial, did you put witness? You represented yourself? Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And did you put witnesses on for the purposes of trying to have custody of your children?
Yes, I did.
During the trial, was there testimony about community property and things that were to be split or divided up?
Yes.
Okay. And did that include out-of-state property in Colorado?
Yes.
Okay. And who was it that valued that property?
I allowed Dan to value everything because I had no knowledge. I wouldn't have been able to evaluate anything.
Dr. Dess was the psychiatrist or psychologist who testified at the divorce trial and made a recommendation that she should not have custody of the kids. And she was angry about that. And you'll see that letter. It was referred to by Dr. Dietz. It's a very interesting letter. You can feel when you read it her absolute rage and anger. And it's directed not only then at Dan, but at Dr. Dess, because he's had the nerve to go against her, to make a recommendation against her, to suggest that at that point she was not the perfect mother. It's filled with the exaggeration and the histrionics and the anger. One of the statements that she makes in that letter, Mr. Broderick did not become what he is because he was married to a whiny weakling of a wife. He knew what I could do for him. He knew I was a better, stronger person than he. This is a quote. He picked the right girl to marry, but he picked the wrong girl to... You cross-examined him at the divorce trial, correct?
Yes.
You had him on the stand for several days, as a matter of fact, correct?
I don't remember if it was several days, but...
And
yeah.
you don't recall him saying to you, your anger is the driving force, your anger and your hatred is the driving force of this proceeding and of the harm that our children have suffered?
That's what Dan would have liked everyone to believe. My driving force was to get a settlement and get him out of my life and have a life, and he was not going to give me that.
When he
Under
said
any
to
circumstances. That's why we were in court, trying to force him to a settlement.
And when he said to you, you want me, you want my ruination in this community, you want my death, you want me destroyed and over and done with, and unless and until that happens, you are not going to be happy, you didn't deny that, did you?
I laughed. The court reporter could not take down my laughter. He was such an arrogant jerk. He wanted people to think that. Those are his attorney words. And that's not true at all. He knew I just wanted a settlement like I should have had and like the children should have had. And to be over and done with him. He was obviously a fool. Well, I felt I had done a fairly good job in the trial and in the courtroom, and the evidence about the children and the evidence about the money seemed to indicate to me that I would get a substantial amount of money as community property. I should get a substantial amount of money as support, and I should have gotten custody of the children and child support. And so I was very optimistic between the trial and the approximately 30 days we had to wait for the verdict. I thought it was going to come out okay.
It didn't, I guess, huh?
Did, on January 22nd, before the verdict, did you start a job anywhere?
Yes, there was an ad in the newspaper in the La Jolla Light for a preschool teacher, which is what I am and what I like to do.
So
I applied for the job and got the job, yes.
Okay. And did you arrange to take at least a day off for the time to go to court?
Yes, I told the lady that I knew I needed January 30th off to go to court, but besides that, I shouldn't have any more problems about going to court.
Was there a reason that you got a job after the trial and before the verdict?
Because I wanted to start a life, and the job fit who I was and what my degree was in. It also fit the hours I wanted for the boys. I worked from 7 to 2, which left me free in the afternoons and on weekends. You know, other jobs that I looked into didn't leave you free.
Did I miss
Miss
that?
what?
When did she say what the job was yet?
Yes, she's a preschool teacher.
A preschool teacher. Okay.
Right.
All right. Just want to make sure.
for the kids, and so this was perfect, that I'd be free after school to go to all the boys' sports and stuff, and I'd be free on weekends. It was a perfect schedule for me.
Okay. When you went to court to hear the verdict on January, the trial ended the very first week in January, is that correct?
Yes.
And when you went to the court on January 30th to hear the verdict, did you know what the verdict was going to be?
No, I felt very positive about it, though. I was absolutely thrilled to have it over with.
But in January of 1989, 11 months before the murders, something fairly significant happened. The divorce proceedings finally came to an end. The defendant had claimed that one of the major sources of her upset was the uncertainty of not having things settled, and that's understandable. There had been a lot of motions and things going back and forth between both sides. But in January of 1989, things got settled. They had a trial in front of a judge. He made all the decisions. He was a judge who didn't know either side. Many people who were close to the defendant thought or hoped that finally having it settled would be a real step towards putting it behind and moving on with their life. But things are only over if you want them to be over.
That's right.
Sometimes the problem is if the fight's over, then everything is over. She refused to let the fight be over. She was furious at the divorce result. She had it set in her mind exactly what she thought she was going to get, and she didn't get it. Dan Broderick didn't get exactly what he thought he was going to get either. That's how those things sometimes go. But Elizabeth Broderick claimed that she had been cheated, and she would accept no alternate possibility for her life, no matter who tried to present it to her.
After the verdict, how did you feel?
I felt absolutely robbed, both of the children and of all the property. And I also asked the judge that the verdict have no loopholes in it, so that Dan couldn't jump through those loopholes like he always did in the past, that it be airtight and be specific about payments on certain dates of certain amounts so that there weren't loopholes in it. And there ended up being a lot of loopholes in it. I asked that Dan's monthly money to me be automatically transferred through banks so I wouldn't have to be subject to his checks coming late and his fines and everything, and I was denied that request. So I was still subject to Dan's personal checks being sent, and I didn't want to live like that. And because of the community property split being so minuscule to me, I was totally dependent on that monthly check, which again, I didn't want to be dependent on. I asked that if I got support, that it be for a determined amount of time, not at Dan's whim or dependent on other things, just so that I could make plans in my life about investments and about where I'd live and stuff, and I didn't get that.
Very reasonable.
Very reasonable request. And I'm surprised that that wasn't even, I'm assuming it wasn't honored, those simple requests.
Well, I think they're going to go into exactly what the settlement is. I hope. If I'm not mistaken, I know some of the numbers, but I think that's coming. Okay. And then we could see if he played any shenanigans or not with her, which I think he does still.
Right. I mean, regardless of the amount, but to ask for it to be, directly deposited by a certain date,
Sure.
Why is that not granted?
That should be
That's
granted.
crazy. Yeah, and then for him to fine her, you know what I mean? Like that's not his prerogative to do that.
Right. I think he could, we're going to find out, but I think he continues to fine her, and then she's back at square one again, where she feels she has to continually request more court hearings to enforce what the final judgment was on the day of the divorce. So yeah, I understand it. And that's totally playing with her.
Frustrating. So frustrating.
Yeah. So let's see what happens next.
By the time of the trial in 1989, she had decided at that point to argue for custody of the kids. But after listening to the testimony of two different psychiatrists, the judge had decided that he felt it was still in the boys' best interest to leave them in the custody of Dan. But he did give the defendant set standard visitation of every other weekend, alternating holidays, a whole month in July, alternating ski weeks.
Did after the judgment in January, was there a change in the visitation regarding the two boys?
There was a court-ordered visitation now. So it was in writing that I should have those boys every other weekend from after school till 5 p.m. on Sunday only. And then in writing, it said about which Easter and which Christmas and which Thanksgiving. And so for the first time, it was in writing when I should have the boys.
And then what happened?
And I didn't think Dan could fool around with that.
Did you, did you try, at least with the visitation, to get the boys longer on the weekend?
Yes, when the verdict came out, I tried to explain to the judge how couldn't I please have the boys from after school on Friday to put them back to school on Monday, because Sunday dinner has been a big tradition in our family. You've heard the kids mention it in here.
It's totally legit.
I'm Italian Catholic, and Sunday is like the core of the entire week, where I always made a big roast or a turkey or something, and Sunday dinner was very important to the children and to myself. And if they had to be picked up at 5 o'clock, we'd have to be home by 3 so they could get their things together and get their homework done and be ready at 5. And it really messed up our Sundays. And I was denied. I could not have them until Monday morning.
That stinks.
It's
Now,
just crazy.
Sometime in January of 1989, did you become aware that the divorce judgment became final?
Yes, the financial part, yeah.
And did she talk to you shortly after the judgment?
Yes.
What was her attitude about that?
She was very unhappy. It wasn't enough.
What was she unhappy about in
The
particular?
financial settlement,
Was she angry about it?
very much so.
Did she tell you how much she got? What her monthly payment was, for example?
In the beginning, she didn't. I think I'd asked her and she didn't tell me. But then several months later, she was kind of ranting on about something and she mentioned it,
Okay.
what she was getting.
So at that point, she mentioned that she was getting the $16,000 a month.
Right, correct.
But earlier, when you had asked her,
Right afterwards, after the hearing, she didn't tell me.
as I mentioned, during these years of 86, 87, 88, 89, Elizabeth Broderick continued to live in her house on Calle de Cielo in La Jolla. One of her most common complaints that she made very vocally.
All right, let's look at that there. The
Yeah.
house on Calle de Cielo, La Jolla, 650,000. So that's hers.
So
Poor-
yeah, so did he give her the house? Like, did he sign over the lease? I mean, the deed?
I don't know. It says defendant's
Yeah.
financial circumstances. So the prosecution is presenting it as this is what she has at this time. So she's got the house for 650. And I don't know if she's going to rebut that, but
Right.
she's getting, I don't know why I thought 9,000. I guess earlier on he only wanted to give her 9,000, but it turns out the settlement is now 16,100 a month. That is a lot of money at that time.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
$193,200 a year.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but I want to know how much she was making a year. You know what I mean? Like, because obviously she
Right.
got him there. You know,
Yeah,
she
true.
does.
Well, yeah, but
She
he's
does deserve that.
right. But it's based on. Here's another thing I want to say. He transitioned, like he left her right when he was in the process of becoming really rich. So
No,
if she can
no, because
only-
she said no. She said that he opened up his practice in 81, and they were rolling in the money in 83, and then he left her, I think, 85 or 86.
Yes, but what that's worth at that time might be 16,100 a month, and he's worth more now as he was going through the separation and divorce, which she probably would not be entitled to that, only up until the point that they separated. And if $16,000 a month,
Well, that could be true somewhere else, but not in California. California is all about everything gets divided in half.
I understand that, but this is 1989, so
I know.
$16,000 100 a month might be the picture that it looks like as half from what he was making at that time.
No, but in California, you divide everything in half, regardless. I don't think they stopped the clock in '85 when I think they stopped the
Yeah.
clock the day you actually divorce.
Well,
Not
maybe,
not when
but
they separated.
right, but
Like,
the house and the Suburban and the Jaguar, okay, could be equivalent to half of what they had in their account. And then, according to what he made at the time of the separation, she's being awarded $16,100 a month. I mean, that might be
right.
accurate.
So I would like to know, because one of the things she had said on the stand was that, everything was in his name. So did he take his name off the house? Did he put her name on it for the house, for the van, for the Jaguar? Like, I want to know that.
Well, it says right here, defendant's financial circumstances. She has the house, she has a Suburban van, and a Jaguar.
Yeah, but I want to know if it's in her name. That really matters.
I'm
sure that.
I'm assuming it's in her name if they're listing it as her financial circumstances, is what I'm saying. I think that this is in her name.
Okay.
Until we hear
let's see
something.
let's see if they address. Yeah. Let's see if they.
Okay.
Well, last that we know is that when she was on the stand, she said that everything was in his name.
Right, at the time when they were in the process. But the settlement now happens, and then here is on a board what she's presenting as her financial circumstances. So I'm assuming nothing but that this is what she has now at this point.
Okay.
Was that when Dan left her, that he had left her homeless and penniless. Those were her words.
Oh, fur coats, diamonds, jewelry.
Even though the house that she moved into
Which are hers
needed some fixing
to
up
begin
when she
with.
first moved in.
It's still
Doesn't
part
even
of
belong
their...
on It doesn't belong on the board. She had furs and diamonds because she got them when she was married to him. You're going to count that now against her?
Yes, they do count that
No.
stuff. Yes,
Okay.
they do. In a divorce, they add up all the assets of both, even if they were gifts. She has fur coats, diamond jewelry, designer clothes, the trips that they've had. The trips maybe I could dispute because those are trips, but president of investment club and real estate license. I don't know why they would put her real estate license on there, but you know what? What she does for a living matters if what he does for a living matters, right? So she had a real estate license, so that should be on there actually. Okay.
She obviously was not left homeless. And she was able over those years to put $200,000 into that house.
College degree and teaching.
including
Listen, he didn't pay
putting
for
in
her
a separate
college.
pool house.
No, those last
I
three
know-
things
I
are
understand.
telling you what her assets are, what her trade is, what her ability to make money is on there as well. So yeah, it's not all like tangible items of value, but it's more like, what she is able to go out there and use to make money herself. Right? I think that that's important. I do.
I don't know. They're making it
Completely
sound like.
remodeling the kitchen, decorating the entire house. She certainly wasn't left penniless. Even though it wasn't as much as she felt she deserved, the court had ordered that Dan pay her $16,100 a month in support, which is almost $200,000 a year. She owned a Suburban van. She had an XKE Jaguar. She was able to continue and did continue to buy fur coats and diamond jewelry, $10,000
1989.
watches. She took shopping trips to New York every year. She went to Tahiti. She went to Hawaii. She went skiing at Deer Valley, which is an exclusive ski resort in Utah. Her friends describe her as certainly appearing to have enough money to spend on anything she wanted, and she spent a lot. She had started dating Brad Wright, the man that I mentioned at the very beginning, back in 1985, the year of their separation. And she continued to have a full relationship with him. They slept together, they showered together, all the way up until the time of this incident.
That's stupid.
In fact, she's written love letters to him from jail, where
Showered
she
together.
has described
Of course they did.
the incredibly wonderful times they spent together. Those are her words. She took several trips with him to San Francisco, to New Orleans, to Acapulco. She and Brad Wright had been in Acapulco the weekend before these murders.
Is that him right there to the right?
Daniel Jr.
But you'll see that she would never admit the true nature of her relationship with Brad Wright to other people. In fact,
Wait,
she
is it?
actually talked
Actually,
about
does
him
look like
in very
him.
demeaning
Yeah.
ways, although he didn't know it.
No, it's
She
not.
has said, for example,
No, 'cause
that
he's really
having
too
him
young.
around was
That's
like
Daniel Jr. That's
Okay.
Daniel Jr. and Rhett. I'll show you Rhett when I see him, but I haven't seen him yet.
Okay.
And that's Lee right there. That's the daughter Lee.
having a dog, only he was house trained. She wouldn't tell a lot of her friends either.
Oh, that
how
is
much
him.
money she was actually getting.
No, it's the son.
Because the truth didn't generate as much sympathy as she wanted. During this time, she was also active in a small investment club. In fact, she was the president of it for several years, a group of women who got together to discuss investments. She was known as being very bright and very knowledgeable in the stock market. In fact, some people have described her as the most intelligent woman they've ever met. She had a real estate license that she'd received in 1984. She also had an interior decorator's license. She had a college degree. She'd been a teacher. She had the ability to be very charming when she wanted. She was always the center of attention in any group. She had the ability to be wonderful with children if she wanted. She had the ability, in fact, to do anything she set her mind to. But the evidence will show that despite all of these tremendous advantages, many of which most people don't even come close to having, none of it was enough. And it wasn't enough for the very simple reason that, in her view, Dan Broderick had more. As each year passed, in her view, he continued to have more. He continued to have his friends. He continued to be well thought of. He continued to be financially successful. And Linda was the one who was sharing it with him. And that burned in her like nothing else.
I bet.
Yeah.
She was tremendously upset and angry and depressed about it.
She couldn't let
Hate
go.
generally doesn't breed a whole lot of happiness.
That's a
pretty
shame.
ugly emotion. She started to gain weight. That made her more depressed. And all of this was Dan and Linda's fault. And that just generated more hate. Hate upon hate upon hate. And so she decided that rather than build something out of her life, she was going to destroy someone else's.
Now, did you do anything in regards to hiring an attorney after the final decree?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of that?
Well, I asked the boys if it was okay if we left things the way they were, and that they would just see me when the decree said they were going to see me. And Danny especially said, "Oh no, Mom, oh no. No, I want to live with you." And so I went out and I hired another attorney to try and fight for the kids.
Elizabeth Broderick did two other things after the divorce trial. We're now in February and March of 1989. She hired an attorney to appeal the divorce, which she certainly had every right to do. But it was her decision to keep that litigation going. And she started talking seriously about killing Dan and Linda. Her desire to kill them, as I mentioned, was something that she had expressed often before, but no one really took those threats all that seriously, except perhaps Dr. Roth and maybe Linda. Prior to November 5th, 1989, had you spent a fair amount of time with Elizabeth Broderick the year, 2 years before that?
Yes.
Did she ever express her feelings to you about Dan and Linda Broderick?
Yes, on numerous occasions.
And what were those feelings that she expressed?
Well, she hated Dan and Linda.
Was there any question about that?
No.
After the divorce judgment became final in January of 1989, do you remember what her attitude was about that?
She was very unhappy about the settlement.
Was she angry about it?
Yes.
What, during that period of time, say the year of 1989, what appeared to be her primary complaint?
Money.
Okay. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, she felt that Dan's lifestyle was far superior to hers, that she had nothing compared to what Dan had financially, and that basically, he was what she made him.
Did her conversations during this period of time about Dan and Linda, were they common conversations, her complaints about Dan and Linda? Was this something that she talked about often?
Yes.
Okay. And could you disagree with her about things, or how would she talk about it?
Well, her anger was steadily getting more aggressive, and I think it concerned me because at one point I felt that it should be getting less, and it seemed to be getting, the anger just seemed
totally.
growing.
Did you ever talk to her about that? About moving on and putting the anger aside?
Yes, I was really hopeful that Betty was going to get into something that she was really interested in, and, you know, just be happier.
Can you describe Elizabeth Broderick's her abilities, her intelligence?
I can honestly say Betty is one of the brightest, wittiest, fun people that I've had the pleasure of spending time with. When she was in an up mood, she was wonderful to be spending time with.
This woman needs therapy so bad.
During that period of time when you started...
You talking about Betty or the friend?
Sorry, Betty.
Yeah.
I mean, oh God, it's so clear as day.
Just letting it fester and grow inside of her and not being able to let go. And it's just
so unhealthy.
It is so
unhealthy. She's missing out on life. She's
Absolutely.
missing out on having this. I know on the outside, she's having this relationship with this guy, but obviously it's not prospering because, they've been together since 85. It's now 89, and it doesn't sound like she's happy with him.
Right. I know. She's just kind of going through the motions with this boyfriend. And
Right.
I don't know. Who am I to say what they have between them? But the biggest thing is that, and it's bad, it's for the kid. Like, the kids are seeing this, and it's like, why? I'm surprised the son even said he wanted to live with her at that point. I mean, I would think that you'd want to be away from that.
She went from this like this very, and I don't mean very caring, very attentive to her children, 4 kids. She was there all the time, and then now she's just it's all about her. And I understand, right? And I understand that she needed this settlement. I get that, but now that she has the settlement, the fact that she's talking to her friends so negative about him still in that fashion. I mean, it's one thing to call, just to be like, asshole called me today, and he, he doesn't want me having the kids, whatever. Okay, that, whatever. But to sit there and just to constantly
drudge it all up,
to bring it all up again, it's just so unhealthy.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. One of my girlfriends at work, she calls her ex-husband Mr. Wonderful.
Oh, really? That's funny. That's like a lighthearted way to deal with it, I guess.
And she only just says, "Oh, Mr. Wonderful is late again today." Whatever, he's late with the check. But nothing really worse than that.
Yeah, and it's like when a woman like loses herself like this, like completely, she's like a shell of who she used to be. Nobody's going to benefit from that. The kids are, they're watching their mother just disintegrate before them, and then she's just angry all the time, and nobody wants to be around, a Karen. There wasn't even Karens back then.
Yeah, no, she's the original.
She's the original Karen. Yeah. All right. So let's play some more. Here we go.
Seeing her again, and did you do things with her as well during that time?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did. We went to lunch, and I would stop by and see her. I get up early in the morning like she does, and I would drop by on my way back from some of my jobs and have coffee with her.
Did she ever talk to you about the divorce situation?
Yes, all the time.
Okay. Did she ever talk to you about her feelings for Dan and Linda?
Yes, continuously.
How would you describe how she felt about Dan and Linda?
Well, she hated them, both of them. I mean, she did not speak highly of them. I mean, there was nothing positive that I could possibly say that she said about them.
How would you describe the nature or quality of her hate? When you say she hated him, if you had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10.
On a scale of what?
Scale of 1 to 10, I'm just using that as an example. How would you?
Oh, she's obviously over 10 plus.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there was no
Yeah.
there was no doubt
Like
in my mind.
every
She hated
day
them.
you got to speak about them.
When you talked with Elizabeth Broderick, did she ever take responsibility for the success that Dan had achieved?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe?
She made him what he was, professionally.
And is this is what she related to you?
She always did, for years.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Well, she dressed him. She picked out his clothes. She did. I remember when he changed from Gay Carey to his own firm, she did all the furniture selection and beautiful things. She had excellent taste. She had a tremendous talent. She had an interior decorating license. She had a real estate license. She was extremely capable woman. I don't know of anybody else that is talented and gifted as Betty Broderick.
You also made threats. You told people when you heard that Dan Broderick had proposed to Linda, that there was a little article in the paper that he had gotten down on one knee and proposed to Linda. You told people, by the time I get through with him, he'll be down on both knees. Did you make that statement?
Actually, I thought it was the day of an investment club meeting, and it was very funny, and I said that Dan Broderick on the floor of a bar doing anything was not a newsworthy subject, so I didn't see why it was in the newspaper. And then I called his office to talk to him and tell him that, but he wasn't there, as a joke. And so Bob Valgi, who I don't know, answered the phone, and I said, tell him that.
You told him, by the time I get through with him, tell him he'll be down on both knees.
Right.
And you thought that was funny.
I did. I still
Just
think
like
it's funny.
stealing the wedding list was funny. Just like calling Linda a cunt was funny. All these things were funny to you.
Well, not funny, ha-ha, but I did get my little digs in, yes, my little tiny digs.
At least she's honest.
You would accept
Yeah.
that people perhaps on the receiving end of those things would not necessarily think they were so funny.
Meaning who, Bob Valgi?
Yes, for example.
I don't know him. I don't know if he thinks it was funny. I thought it was real funny.
How about, did she talk to you about taking the wedding list?
Yes, she did.
What did she say about that?
I think she had dropped one of the children off, and she was in the house, and she said as she was leaving, she saw an envelope by the front door, and she picked it up and looked inside, and it was the wedding list, and so she took it.
Did she actually show the list to you?
Yes, she did.
And what was her demeanor like when she did that?
Well, I believe she was angry about names on the list, people that were going to the wedding, or she speculated that they would be going to the wedding if they were invited.
Did you say anything to her about taking the list back?
Yes, I advised her to take it back, and
And what was her response?
no, she wasn't planning on doing that.
That's theft.
You also went into the house and stole the wedding list. That was on another occasion, correct?
That was not in the house, it was on the front stairs.
You knew that the wedding list obviously didn't belong to you.
Obviously, yes. It was left on the front stoop for someone to come along and pick it up.
And you also
And I
thought,
came along and picked it up.
Okay. And you
It's actually a
also thought that
federal.
was funny.
It's a
You thought it
federal
was funny.
offense. You're not allowed to steal people's mail. If it-
Mail. It's not mail. It was
don't-
just an envelope with a list inside.
Well, they didn't indicate that it wasn't mail either. It was on a front stoop, so it could have been mail.
Anybody could take that.
No,
That's not-
if it has a postage stamp on it, if it
If
has
it has a postage stamp,
yeah, okay.
if
well,
it did,
it
yeah,
might.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take the list.
I thought it was funny, and I thought it was very useful to me.
Which, by the way,
Legally.
stamp is 73 cents. Did you know that? I just
No.
mailed something the other day, so random, and it was 73 cents. I was like, what?
I don't mail anything. I just
I know,
buy
neither do I.
things. Yeah.
I went to go buy a stamp. I'm like, oh, let me just pick up a book. So I just had it, because who wants to go to the post office for a stamp?
Yeah.
73 cents. I almost died. I was like, what? All right, go ahead. Sorry.
I think you can afford 73 cents.
I know, but I remember when they were 23 cents.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Everything is crazy right now. Yeah.
Okay. Did you take a wedding list from their house?
Yes, when I was dropping the boys off on a Sunday evening, I picked up an unmarked envelope that was on the front steps of the house. It wasn't addressed to anyone, didn't have a return address. It was a white envelope.
Okay.
And did you look in the envelope?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was it a wedding list?
It was, yes, it was a copy of a wedding list.
And did you take it?
Yes.
And what was that for?
I thought it was interesting, from my point of view, that that he invited the child psychiatrist that said stuff against me that cost me my children, even though he never met me. And he invited his accountant, the one who added 2 + 2 comes out -8. And he was inviting his attorneys that helped him get this incredible settlement against me. And several judges were on the list. And
Wow.
It looked like a thank you very much for helping me screw my wife party.
Okay, so all right, so
See,
it's wrong.
I get that.
It's still wrong to steal it. It's no matter what. At the end of the day, it's wrong to steal it. But I agree with her. I could see why she would think it's useful. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to do that. But I will say the list is very telling. If everybody that helped him get the settlement he wanted is on that list.
How could you not know that that was going to happen? We're talking about the 80s, and it probably, and I'm sure it happens nowadays. Listen, there's that whole 6 degrees of separation, and he's a top lawyer who's a president of whatever club that. Remember that night?
But
she's
again,
screwed.
She's got to let it go. It's bad. I know it's bad. He screwed you over, honey. But really, you got to move on because you're making an idiot out of yourself. You're ruining your relationships with your children. You're not
if anything, I don't think she's making an idiot of herself. I think she's totally okay about doing the things that she's doing. But I agree. She should put her kids first at this point.
Yes.
But her going against the settlement, appealing it is her fighting for her kids.
Yeah, and also why? When at what point is she going to say, you know what? What a jerk he is. Like, I wouldn't want to be with him anyway at this point. You know what I mean?
I don't think she wants to be. At this point, I don't think she wants to be with him anymore. I think before she did.
I think she would have taken him back in a heartbeat. I do. That's what she planned. Okay. That's what she married. I think, again, there's a little bit of the Catholic girl mentality.
Yeah, but she's dating this other guy since 85.
Yeah, it's just whatever. I think it was just,
filler.
Mindless filler.
Filler.
Yeah. I think if he said, Betty, I miss you, I want you back, she would have been right back with him. She would have been like,
probably.
Yeah, you're supposed to be with me, is what she would have said.
Yeah.
She would have said, now you're coming to your senses. Come back, So,
right.
Yeah.
You're right. She probably would.
With respect to the hearing on March 14th of 1989, after you stole the wedding list, Mr. Berry did go into court to attempt to get an order from the court to have you return the wedding list, correct?
Among a lot of other things, yeah.
Well, the reason, the precipitation, what brought that hearing on was the fact that you had gone and stolen the wedding list, right?
I removed the wedding list from the front steps of the house. Nobody needed to go to court to ask for the wedding list back. All they had to do was ask for the wedding list back. They could have it back.
Oh, that's baloney.
Well, they did request from the judge that you return the wedding list. You had taken it, whether you want to call it stealing or not, you had taken the wedding list.
And I'd be happy to give it back, no problem.
Interesting. Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Now we're going down to business now. Never should have gone there.
But in March of 1989, Elizabeth Broderick bought a gun, the .38 caliber Smith & Wesson that she used to kill Dan and Linda with. This was about a month before Dan and Linda were to be married in April.
Ugh.
She knew that they were getting married.
Gets bad.
It was after the hearing on March 14th when you knew that Dan and Linda were getting married. You had stolen the wedding list only a day or two before. You had, at least other people have testified, that you had threatened to kill Dan and Linda at the wedding. It was after you had gone to that court hearing where you basically said that you were very angry that they had brought you to court. You felt that you were humiliated because they were ordering you to return the wedding list. It was right after you left that court hearing that you went directly to Weiser's gun store and bought the gun, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. You tell him, Betty.
Look, she's questioning
Now,
her
when
like,
you
I'm going to
bought
get
the
her
gun,
now.
Yeah.
You said that you bought 3 boxes of bullets.
I think, yes, that's my recollection.
Okay, and one was the hydroshock bullets, one was the target bullets, and then you bought another box of what kind of bullets?
I remember them as being cheap, medium, and good. That's the way I remembered them. Some were called retreads or reloads or something, and one were brand new, regular target shooting bullets, and the other ones were the ones you would use for self-defense protection.
And you shot a whole box of those bullets the day that you bought
Yes,
the gun?
yes.
Okay, how many bullets are
I'm
you
not
talking
sure if I
about?
shot the cheapest ones or the medium ones. I don't know. If they come in,
10, 15, 50?
I think it was the same kind of a box as the other ones are here.
50 shot
If
box?
that's what's in there, it looked the same size.
Now, at the time that you, did you purchase a gun at that time?
Yes.
And at the time that you purchased the gun, did you purchase some bullets?
Yes.
Okay. How many boxes of bullets did you buy?
3.
Okay. And at the time you purchased a gun, did you actually fire a gun?
Yes.
Okay. And what was the purpose of firing a gun? Was there a shooting range where you were at?
Yes, where they sell the guns is right across the hall from the firing range, and when people are buying guns, they take the guns that they're interested in and shoot them to see if they're interested in.
Okay. So they had you bought one of the box of bullets. Did you fire that
Yes.
to a gun?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did you end up purchasing that model of gun?
Yes.
Okay. Now, were you able to pick the gun up on that day?
No.
Okay. And did you have to show identification for registration?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And was there a waiting period before you were able to pick up the gun?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you picked up the gun, did you load it with the hydroshock bullets?
No, I don't know. I don't know if that's the same gun that I picked up.
No,
or
I'm not talking about whether or not it's the same gun you shot, but when you went back and you picked up the gun after the waiting period, you picked up the gun and you said that the gun was loaded the day that you left that shop when you picked up the gun.
Yes, that's
Did
what.
you load it, or
because
did
I
the
didn't
people
load
there
it
at
at
the shop
home.
load it?
I don't remember who loaded. I think the man did, but I wouldn't say that I didn't. I don't know.
Okay.
But it was
you-
loaded and ready to go when I left the shop
Okay, so you knew that it was loaded with hydroshock bullets when you left the shop.
with the good bullets, right?
That's weird.
And
I
you
don't think when you go to a gun store that they'll load it for you. I don't think that. Well, maybe
I
they
don't
did
know.
then, but
Yeah.
I don't think that that's proper. But what do I know?
Well, that's in the 80s, so.
Let me just say, one thing I love about her is I love her honesty. She is so
Yes.
honest, and make note of that because
Yeah.
it makes you believe that it's a high probability that when she does give her recount of the murder, that is probably true, right down to because she's that particular. She has no shame in saying exactly what she's done. And I
Right.
just
This
think-
whole time. She is just blunt, and she says how she feels, and she doesn't scurry around what she said on the tape or
Right.
any letters she's written. She owns up to it each and every time.
Yeah. And it's like my 4th or 5th time in the last, 30 years that I've watched this trial, because I've gone back to it a couple times. And it's the first time I've actually thought about that. Like, I've never thought about that before. And I thought, wow, because her testimony is going to be a little weird about what happened that day. But now that I'm hearing this and like walking through it again, I'm like,
Right.
wow, the fact that she's even honest about the dumbest, most particular things, like, makes me think that when we do get to her testimony about the day of the murders, that every single bit of it is probably true. So
Right.
keep that in mind.
Right.
Why would she
Okay.
lie at that point? There was so many things that she could have like tried to get out of and scurry out of, and she didn't.
This is totally like left field, but I don't know if you guys noticed watching this video. The lady that records the what do you call the lady that types and records.
Oh, I watch her all the time. There's 2 of them that I keep seeing. Which one?
There's 3 of them. There's like 3 of them.
Yeah, I can think of
But
2.
yet Betty wears the same outfit every time. She's wearing the same sweater. It seems like she wears the same sweater every time.
Yeah, well, she's in prison, so that's her outfit probably that they brought for her because she's being held there while she's. Yeah, I don't.
And everybody else is wearing different outfits all the time. But there's like 3 different court recorders.
Yeah. She doesn't. But just and the fashion back then, like it's so like 1989. That sweater is.
Yeah.
Look at
paisley print.
Yeah, and the colors, those dark colors, and the blue and the purple. It is just so
the rust underneath.
But it reminds me of like Busta Rhymes pants or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
Can't touch this. Like you see the pants, like the whatever.
I believe this recorder girl. She's wearing these really beautiful silver shoes.
Oh, she is?
Her.
Oh, I'll have to check them out. I love how you see the shoes. Hello there. Yes, it does scream intent.
I don't know. I guess we'll the case. I don't know.
We're walking through it again, and this is Lynn's my co-host's first time walking through this case. I've done it 5 times, and I've always felt bad for her, no doubt about it. I feel terrible for her, but like I see more in what she did to dig her own hole this time around.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Now that I'm older and I'm looking at it from like an older woman's perspective. But there is definitely that she was totally mentally abused by Dan, though. There's no doubt.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that he got her to this point, but there's a point where you do have to own yourself, and you need to go get therapy.
Accountability, for your actions, and not only for yourself, but for your family, your children. You can't behave this way. So, but yeah, she's interesting to watch, Betty.
Took the gun home.
Okay.
The loaded gun, and you put it somewhere in your closet when you got it home.
I put it in my nightstand, I put it in my closet, and I put it in a dresser. I moved it around. I wasn't comfortable with any of those places.
When you picked up the gun, did you fire that gun at all?
I fired a gun. I don't know if when I went back and picked up a gun, it was the exact same gun. I don't know if they just let you fire the ones in the case and then you get one off a back shelf. I don't know if it was exactly the same gun.
Okay, did you have to clean your gun at all? In other words, did you...
When I fired it the day that I bought it, when you fire it, it gets real dirty and grungy and messed up. And the man in the store took it all apart and cleaned it. But personally, after I got it home, I never fired the gun and then I never cleaned it.
When you purchased the gun, where did you keep it in the house after you first purchased it?
I bought it to protect myself in the house, so it seemed logical to me that where I would keep it would be in the nightstand next to the bed. So I tried that for a while.
Did you move it after that?
Yeah, I was uncomfortable with that. I told everyone I had the gun right away because I didn't want any accidents with this gun. I told the kids, I told Maria, I told other people I had this real gun, and I showed it to the boys, and I, in fact, took them shooting one time. I was absolutely adamant that this was a real gun, and if they opened a drawer or saw it anywhere, they were not to touch it at all.
Okay, so listen, there's no coincidence. This is not a coincidence that she... I can't get past this one. So, yes,
okay.
I'm seeing the intent here because... it's no coincidence that she'd buy a gun in March, just before the November murder. I mean, it's just, it looks really bad when you know what I'm saying? Where is there evidence or any testimony about her having any kind of threats to her life where she would need to protect herself?
Jeopardy.
All of a sudden, now in 1989, you need to go buy yourself a gun.
Right.
That looks really bad for her, and I'm sure the jury is seeing that right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean just for protection. Like I don't understand. Well, you're right. There's there's no police report. Who's after her?
Nobody, right? And it just
right.
If I was on the jury, I'd be very, very concerned about that. Very concerned.
That's a red flag.
Yeah. Okay, April '89. Dan is marrying Linda.
Linda's dreams come true.
Definitely taken seriously. Dan and Linda Broderick had to hire security guards for their wedding. Not an optimum way to have a wedding.
because
A
they were
security
getting
guard
threats.
actually followed the defendant's every move that day because they were so concerned.
In early of April of 1989, did you have a conversation with Daniel Broderick?
Yes, I did.
And what was the conversation?
I was contacted by Dan Broderick. I was referred to him by a client of his, and he asked me to come to his house to have a discussion in regards to providing protective services for him at his wedding.
Did Mr. Broderick state why he was hiring you?
Yes, he did.
What did he state?
He stated that he was hiring myself and my partner to protect him on his wedding day because of threats to his life and the life of his fiancée on the day of their marriage.
And what arrangements did you work out with Mr. Broderick for that wedding day?
I arranged for myself and a partner. Myself, I stayed at his residence the entire wedding day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. My partner stayed at Mrs. Broderick's residence in La Jolla and followed her everywhere she went that day.
Mr. Broderick showed you a restraining order.
Yes, he did. He armed us both with copies of the restraining order.
Did Mr. Broderick tell you other reasons why he was especially concerned about his safety and his guest's safety and Linda Broderick's safety on his wedding day?
Yes, he did.
What did he tell you?
He stated he took me out to the front of his residence and showed me where Mrs. Broderick had driven into the front door of his house, and stated to me that she had threatened him over the phone several times. He stated to me that she had purchased a weapon.
Did you tell Kim on several occasions that you were going to kill Dan and or Linda at the wedding?
No, I never told anybody, but Dan and Linda told people for a full year, including Michael Campbell, that they hired, but they told everyone, family and friends, from the day they planned this marriage a year earlier, that I was going to come with a machine gun and kill everyone at the wedding and put bullets through her head and everything, and I laughed about it. I said she had a soap opera mentality.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
I could see that because I heard Linda wasn't very nice sometimes, and she,
yes,
you know, and I could see her being like, you know, well, you know, our wedding's coming up, and we're gonna have to be careful because Betty will probably walk in, and you know, that's, you know, like a speculation.
Well, I mean, right. I mean, her words are pretty violent. Betty's words are pretty violent, so I can understand where she's coming from. I think her, you know, them being worried was probably true, but I definitely think that I think Dan feeded that story and then it just went crazy.
Yep, I agree too. Yep.
But I never told anybody I was going to kill anybody at the wedding.
Well, Dan and Linda did hire security guards for protection at their wedding, correct?
I know
Yes.
what they told the children.
Yes or no? Did they hire security guards as far as you knew at the wedding?
I knew they told the children the day they announced they were getting married that they were going to hire security guards a year later at the wedding. And because I was coming with the machine gun and going to kill everybody, and they were going to hire helicopters and everything. And it was all very exciting. And the children thought it was just wonderful.
You knew that there was a security guard that had been hired to follow you that day.
I only know now. I wouldn't have known.
You weren't aware of him at that particular day that he was
I was
following
aware
you.
of some weird person in a blue pickup following me everywhere, but I didn't know who he was.
I decided to call her up later and ask her to go to Palm Springs with me.
Okay. For on the date of the wedding?
Yes, leave that day, that afternoon, Friday
That's a good
afternoon.
friend.
And to spend the weekend out of town.
Okay. And what was her response?
No. She did not want to go.
Okay, what did you do next?
So then I said, well, I'll come over. I did not have my children that weekend, and I was going to spend the Friday,
That's a really
Saturday,
good
and
friend.
Sunday with her.
Why did you want to spend the day with her?
I thought it'd be a very tough day for her. I also didn't want her to do anything that she would regret.
Did you spend the full day, the full wedding day with her?
Yes.
Okay. And did you set up any particular system with anybody who was at the wedding?
Right. Yes, I did.
Can you describe that?
I used a beeper through my work, and I had another beeper, and I gave
A beeper.
the other beeper to someone else who I knew was going to the wedding. And if Betty, who really is her own person, was going to go there, she was going to go there. And I was going to beep her and say, hey, she's not with me.
Okay. So were you concerned about the fact that she might go over to the wedding and do something?
Oh, very much so.
She obviously didn't do anything on the day of the wedding, perhaps because of the security. She spent the day with a friend, a good friend, a woman named Helen Picard, who wanted to try and make the day easier for her. Actually, I tried to get her to go out of town, and she wouldn't. But after the wedding, which didn't occur until over 4 years after her separation, it had been over 4 years before
Wow.
Dan Broderick remarried.
That's a long time.
The hate that she felt
he
for
was
them,
with her
and
for 6 years, though.
particularly for Linda, reached its peak, because now Linda was no longer that young, dumb bimbo that Dan was messing around with, which is how she always described her. Now Linda was Mrs. Daniel T. Broderick. And as far as she was concerned, that was her right, and only her right.
During the summer, did you have some regular visits scheduled with the boys?
Yes, because of the decree, the divorce decree, I was supposed to have them for the first time for the entire month of July.
Okay. Now, had you ever had, was this the first time where you ever had a court order time where you were going to have the boys for a substantial period?
Yes, and then because of that, I was able to make plans and make reservations and think ahead of time that I have them from this day to this day, so what will we do? And I made plans.
And what did you do?
We ended up driving. It was the boys' idea. There was an article in a local magazine about skiing, snow skiing on glaciers in the middle of summer. My boys love to snow ski, and so we drove to a glacier so they could snow ski on a glacier in summer. And the glacier was in Whistler Mountain in British Columbia.
Now, did you have that summer that while you had the boys, how would you describe your mood? Did it improve at all?
Absolutely. As long as I have the kids, I'm fine. I mean, my energy level comes right back because I have somebody to do things with. I'm not alone anymore, and I love doing things with my kids, and we just have nonstop fun. We go from one thing to another. And my house is fun. It was near the beach. It had a swimming pool. The kids just love to be at my house, and I love having them there, even though they're noisy and they make a mess.
Was there a time
See how
that was
real
important
she is?
for you where
Yeah,
you were
I
trying
love
to get
it.
custody of the boys?
Yes, every summer. Yes, every summer.
Okay. What was the reason that there was a time that was important?
Because of the change in the school schedule of what bus route they're going to be on and what soccer team they're going to be on and what Boy Scout is dependent on what part of your neighborhood where you live in. And once the children were established in September at a certain address, I thought it was important that they keep a continuity going. And so every May or June, I'd start doing stuff to get the kids that summer. Because it didn't matter to me if they switched houses in the middle of the summer. There was no schedule. So I hired Walter Mond in February to do a custody fight that summer, so for sure I had the boys before school started, right in the beginning of September.
Okay. So you expected that there would at least be those court hearings by that time?
I was sure there would be, yes.
Okay. And did you see her at all in the summer of 1989?
I saw her a lot, yes.
Okay. Now, during the summer when she was trying to get custody of the children, how would you describe her? How was she doing?
In 1989, she was excited about the possibility of having the children with her and wanting to have this all accomplished during the summer so they would be settled by the time school started.
Okay, now before the summer of '89, had she been different? Would you describe her different before the summer of '89?
Yes, before the trial, very different because things really weren't going well, and she was depressed and upset, lonely.
Would you see Betty with her children?
Yes, I did.
And how was she when she was around the children?
Absolutely beautiful. Just they loved her, she loved them, and I could tell that they were just very much cared about each other and wanted to be with each other. Was happy. They were happy together.
Did she talk at all about her children?
She talked about them all the time.
Did she convey any desires about her children, where they should live, or how she felt about that?
Oh yes, Betty wanted the kids to be back with her. She wanted to provide them an environment where a parent was in the household all the time with them.
Were you aware of things in 1989 that she was doing to try to get custody of her children?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see her with her children?
On several occasions.
Can you describe how she was around her children?
Betty's mood was lightened, I would say, not as contrast that it was gloomy, but no matter what was going on in Betty's life, when the kids were around her, she made it real comfortable for them to be with. She put aside her court problems. She left that aside and tried to be just a mom to the boys.
Did you see Betty during the summer of 1989?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware of anything she was doing to help her try to get custody of the boys?
Yes. The couple of times that I saw her during that summer, she was happy about one thing, that part of it was over and she could concentrate on getting the children back and try and move forward. But the papers kept coming that I think were partly negative for her.
So during the summer, while she was working to get the boys back, her mood, at least it improved.
It improved for a short period of time, yes, it did.
Now, was there a hearing that was set before school was set to begin?
Yes,
And was that hearing continued?
it was canceled or continued or put off or something.
And how did you feel about that?
I was absolutely devastated. I was horrified. I had done every single thing Walter Mon told us to do, and all the paperwork was done. Everything was in my file. He knew it was important to me to get it done before school started. And Dan was interviewing these doctors, and Dan was being resistant to the whole thing. And when the day came, it couldn't happen. But he told me, not to worry. It was going to be put off till October, and that not to worry, it was going to be put off till October. And I said to him, I don't know if I'll be alive in October. I was so upset.
Okay. And was it continued till October?
Yes.
Okay. Now,
But it didn't happen in October either.
Now, in
so
1989, she wants to
I
have
know.
her children back. And during the period of time of 1989, when she's asking him, and Dan is saying, well, let's do this, let's have a hearing here, let's delay this hearing, let's hear from a doctor, let's do some depositions. And now it goes from July to August to September, and the kids are now in school again. Elizabeth Broderick knows is what's going on is what went on before. Dan Broderick has the children, and she doesn't. And that they're being delayed again. And she has a new lawyer, and she's saying, it is in his interest to delay. I don't want to delay. Let's have the hearing, let's have the ruling. But it's delayed. The hearings are delayed, so September becomes into October. But she's trying to crawl out of that pit. And she's in a very severe depression, and you'll hear about depression. You'll hear that it's a lot of self-hate. It's a lot of pent-up emotion. And you'll hear that it can explode. It can explode when things happen.
yes, can you describe her emotional, how she was doing in the months preceding November 5th of 1989?
Yes, there was a period, I don't know if it covers that, is right during the summer when Betty thought that she might be getting custody back. Or she was trying to fight for custody. I think she was more hopeful than she had been in the last year. But as the legal process of the custody portion did not go through,
I'm getting used to it.
Betty's attitude.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, what was that?
Get used to it. I gotta rewind that. Hold on.
Process of the custody portion did not go through.
I'm getting used to it.
Betty's attitude, she seemed really depressed. She seemed more depressed than I'd ever seen her. She seemed more like a person that was giving up on herself. She became more reclusive. I noticed it was harder to get a hold of Betty. I would have to call her children's line in order to get her to answer the telephone.
In September, October, November of 1989, when she was trying to get her children back and she was working within, trying to at least work in with the system, in September of 1989, the answering machine came on, and it came on again with Linda Kolkina's voice. Dan hated the
now they're
phones.
married.
They had their own private number.
It triggered her.
And it was her only contact with her children, other than the time she was able to see
So
them during
they
the
had
day.
two
But
lines.
again, the voice came on,
Yeah, but listen.
telling her she wouldn't have that, and she got upset. They could have put anyone's voice on the machine. They could have put the kids. They could have put anybody's on there.
She lives there.
But Linda Kolkina's voice came again on the answering machine, and the answer was simple. Now it's her house. They don't have to worry. She can do what she wants. But they knew that at that point in time, when they were delaying the proceedings for her getting the children back, it made her upset, and they knew it made her upset.
Yes, they did.
Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna stop it there. But
So definitely, I definitely think that he was just dangling her around again.
for sure.
I mean, just to be devil's advocate, maybe he was really worried about her demeanor with the kids, because obviously in the past it wasn't so great. But she always said that she needed this settlement and then she can move on. And in a sense, she got the settlement, and then she puts in for
Custody.
right, custody again, right? So and now he's just like fighting her on it. And then putting her on the answer machine when that's going to set her off. Like, why put fuel to the fire?
Like really passive aggressive move, because
Yes.
she has every right to be on her machine.
She does, but there's two lines. Go on talk on the other line.
I think it was the main house line. I
No,
think it was
he's-
the main house line that. Oh, Linda's.
didn't the
Did he say
lawyer-
that Linda's voice was on the kids line?
Yes, Linda's voice is on the
Oh,
kids
that's
line.
really bad. Yeah, that's.
It's like,
totally-
seriously? Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, why?
Right. So I want to close this one out by saying that Betty is very likable. Like, I would be friends with her. She
Yeah.
seems like a cool person. And no matter what you think, if you think she belongs in jail or not, would Betty ever kill anybody outside of this scenario here? No.
No.
She is not a
No.
murderer. I mean,
No.
she murdered them. Let me clarify that.
Right.
And did wrong. And probably going to end up saying that she totally deserved to do time. But I'll wait for that.
Yeah.
But she would never kill anybody else. I mean, I'm not saying there are people out there that are just born and bred to
Killers,
do something.
yeah.
Just to do
Right,
something
right.
like that. And
But she has been mentally abused, although she's been abusing him too.
she's
You know what I
abusing
mean?
him right back.
But yeah, she really is. But I mean, listen, honestly, like she finally got her settlement in January. To me, the clock actually really starts now, because this whole other time, like he's just been jerking her around, not giving her a settlement for how many years?
I know. And
Yeah,
that is
4 years.
That's pent up. And then you've got the depression of not having your kids with you. You're their mom. They want to be with you. And then you call, and then, the new wife, the new beautiful wife is the one,
Yeah.
her voice is on there. And it's just the what could have been, what could have been from my life. He just can't let go of it. He's mine.
Yeah.
And it's just animosity. But, people are done wrong all the time in the world. And,
Right.
you get screwed over by people I'm trying to think of an example.
Bosses, friends, relatives,
Right.
anybody.
And
Yeah.
it's painful and it hurts, and sometimes it's still in front of your face. Like people, that's why they move out of the town sometimes when they get a divorce. They don't want to be in the same town with that person, because you see them in the store, it drudges up all that old memories and stuff, And with a divorce, a messy divorce like this with kids, you have to see that person when you exchange the kids. You have to talk to that person about whatever, financial things, college for the kids, or wedding someday for the daughters. I mean, these are all, she's connected to him forever. And then that, he knows that. And then, Linda puts her voice on that voice.
I mean, she does have every right. You're right. She has every right. But honestly, like you're just putting fuel to the fire. Like they have no, I mean, and it was just, I think it's another, I'm sure she's still calling them names, not necessarily behind their back because they know it, but I'm sure she's still calling them names. And now that she's even being more aggressive with her friends, saying how much she just wants them to die,
Yeah.
So it's a whole lot of combination of everything.
And did you observe also, because I observed when any one of her friends were on the stand, you could tell they did not want to be there. They did not want to turn against her. You could see it in their face. They were just doing their duty to show up and tell the truth, because they know they have to tell the truth. You've always got to tell the truth. But you could just see that they were very uncomfortable. Yeah, because
the woman, the prosecutor was like, "Can you explain?" Like, because they just answered yes, no. Can you elaborate? Can you explain that?
Hey, that would be like you and me. Like, can you imagine having to get on the stand and testify about me or you? That would be hard.
You would never do it.
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. No, I mean. Well, you have to. You go to jail right? I don't know. Can you? I don't know.
I've never fired a gun, so mine would be like strangulation or something.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, that would be really hard to get on the stand and, sell you out. That would be hard for me.
Yeah. And they were honest. They were honest, though.
Yeah. So, okay,
nice.
I did send you a message. I gave you an FYI, but you didn't look. So I can't be here Monday night. So unless you can do Tuesday, we'll be back on Thursday. So you have to let me know what you want to do. We only have one more, I'm going to say one more episode to finish the trial, but then we might have another shorter episode after that, because a lot that's happened with Betty since her trial ended.
Since she's been in jail,
yeah,
you mean?
Since she's been in jail. So we'll probably have a smaller episode on that. But yeah. So
do you have any updates on the kids and stuff?
Yeah, and I'd rather go through those at the last episode. I kind of know what most of them are doing except for Lee. I don't know much about Lee, but Kim, the oldest, the one that you saw her face the most, she has been the most vocal, and she's out there a little bit on social media. I mean, not completely out there, but you can get to some things on her pages. A little bit about the two sons.
We'll save it. Okay, we'll save it. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. And don't forget to like and share.
Yeah, like and share and subscribe. Yes. Hit the subscribe button.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys on Thursday as of right now, unless you tell me Tuesday.
Probably Tuesday, but yeah, let's play it by ear.
All right, so we might be on Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So
bye.
We will see
Have
you
a good
guys.
Weekend.
Yes, you too.
Yes.
Bye.
You
the
too.
Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the hosts and guests. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.